All right, Micah. Just the introduction for it is this. Basically, it's written by, take a wild guess, Micah. Now, it's not Micah the son of Imlah that you find in, where is that, 2 Samuel. It's Micah the Moreshite. And he's in a region that's over around Gath. So he was on the border of the Philistine territory. Yeah. So he was not part of the city hierarchy. He was a lowly person, just a normal Joe. In chapter 4, verse 6, it says, "In that day, saith the Lord, I will assemble her that halteth, and I will gather her that is driven out, and I will have her that I have afflicted." He's saying here that what's going on in the nation at this time in the book is it's become politically corrupt. All of the rich people are getting rich by persecuting the poor people, by hurting anybody they can to get on top. It's been the same in every age, in every nation. Somebody who's got wealth and power will do all they can to crush anybody under them in order to get more. In chapter 1, verse 1, much of his prophecy is going to be directed toward these leaders and toward the people in power. 1 verse 1, it says, "The word of the Lord that came to Micah the Moreshite in the days of Jotham, Ahaz, Hezekiah, kings of Judah, which he saw concerning..." Now, you notice something here? Samaria, where is that? That's in the north. And Jerusalem, that's in the south. But you notice those kings that are listed, they're all in the south. He didn't mention the northern kingdoms. They're kings. He's going to preach to both north and south. But by name, he's giving the kings that were in the south, because that's where he lives. That's the ones he's familiar with. The time period is, he's contemporary with both Isaiah and Hosea. And you'll see some bleed over of information. Look down at chapter 1, verse 6. "Therefore I will make Samaria," that's in the north, "as an heap of the field, and as the planting of a vineyard. And I will pour down the stones thereof into the valley, and I will discover the foundations thereof." Now that's God acting as though he's the Assyrian. God has joined forces with the enemy of Israel, both the north and the south, in order to make this happen. That's bad news. I'm going to move fast so I can delete some of this. Okay, so these kings listed. He's got a listing of kings in the south that's a flip-flop. Jotham is, when I say good, I don't mean great. But I mean good as in relatively speaking. Ahaz is bad. And then Hezekiah is good, mostly. Toward the end of his life, he's not. But that's that flip-flop going back and forth and back and forth. Does that remind you of anything?
Flesh on the spirit?
Yes, that's true. But it reminds me of America. We're going to elect a Democrat, and then immediately we'll elect a Republican, and then it'll go back and forth, so everybody stays in neutral. And it's not really neutral. Neutral means the devil has the high ground. Why is the book important? There's a lot of reasons the book is important, but it provides a significant prophecy of Jesus Christ. His birth in the Old Testament pointing to the events hundreds of years ahead of time. It talks about the birthplace being in Bethlehem, and him being the Son of God. Micah 5, look at verse 2. Micah 5, verse 2. Amazing that in the middle of God talking about, I'm going to destroy and wipe out all these people that I'm mad at, he gives this hope. "But thou, Bethlehem Ephratah, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall come forth unto me that is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth have been from old and from everlasting." That can't be a man. Surrounding these prophecies, Jesus' birth is one of the most clear, concise prophecies of the Old Testament, about Christ coming to earth, the Messiah. Look at chapter 5, verse 5. And this man shall be the peace when Assyria shall come into our land, and when he shall tread in our palaces, then shall we rise against him, 7 shepherds and 8 principal men. Then it starts getting confusing. We're going to delve into some spots in this book that I'm not going to have all the answers to. There's going to be some prophecies in there that get so heavy and deep, I don't have a clue what he's talking about. But we'll wade through it and see what y'all can come up with. Look at chapter 4, verse 3. He says, and he shall judge among many people. Okay, this is Jesus Christ in the future. And rebuke strong nations far off. Yes, he's going to come rule with a rod of iron the whole world. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares. Not the UN. But this is what the UN thinks. They think they are Jesus Christ. That's a scary thought. When they put that placket on their building, as though they're the ones that are going to rule the world and bring peace, and you can bust up all your weapons because they're in charge now, what they've done is they've taken the place of the Prince of Peace who's coming. And that's exactly what he's going to do. But unless you have righteousness, you can't do any of that. They'll beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. Obviously, the UN didn't accomplish that. But they shall sit every man under his vine and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid. For the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it. One day it's going to come to pass, but it hasn't on this side, so it's something future. And of course, it's talking about Jesus Christ. Okay, because these events have not occurred yet, and peace has not come to earth. It can't have been fulfilled when Babylon destroys Assyria. That can't be the fulfillment of it. So it's a future fulfillment, and we know from the prophecy of Jesus being born in Bethlehem that it's a reference to the Messiah's rule and reign, and that'll be in the Millennium. So this book covers a massive amount of time. It's going to cover from this time period under Assyria, mid-7s BC, 700 BCs, all the way to whatever year the tribulation begins. I don't know when that's going to be. Probably soon.
2023.
27, yes, right. 20, I think it's 27, isn't it?
But I was going for 23.
right. Yeah. Well, don't make it too early because we're still here.
We're done with Jose.
right. Yes. So this is going to give us the information in the Millennium when he sets up. And he's going to link the punishments of Israel, and they're all going to picture the culmination of Israel's punishment. He's beginning it here. He's inflicting punishment and pain on both the north and the south in this book that will not be finished until the Antichrist is defeated at the end of the tribulation, and he sets up this millennial rule of peace. And so that's where we're headed. That's the intro. What's the point of the book? I don't know if I got time to tell you all this. Let's see. Yeah, I got 1 minute. The point of the book revolves around 2 significant prophecies. One is the judgment of Israel and Judah. The other is the restoration of the nation of Israel, his people. The judgment and restoration inspire fear on purpose. He's trying to scare them straight. You've heard that, scared straight. Well, it doesn't scare them. You know, that's something a man's got to determine between them and God whether or not they're going to do right. If a man doesn't want to do right, it won't matter what you say to him, he's not going to do right. Look at chapter 7, verse 7. 7, verse 7. Eventually, it's going to work out. God's going to take just a handful and create a nation out of them for the millennium. Therefore will I look unto the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. Now that's going to be the few remnant Jew that comes through the tribulation. That's what they'll say. And they're literally waiting for him to come back, and he will. That's second advent. He'll return, and with the handful that are left, he'll create a nation and a millennium of peace. But we're going to have some trouble to get through to get to that point. Okay, we'll start the book next week. Micah 1. Well, if you get the right Bible, it's 1152.
Oh, yeah. That's what mine is.
Is it? Yes, that's the duplicate of this one.
Yeah.
Yep. Micah 1, verse 1. The word of the Lord that came to Micah the Morshite in the days of Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, which he saw concerning Samaria and Jerusalem, that's north and south. Hear all ye people, hearken, O earth. Now, people want to say that means people on the earth, but I think it means what it said, that we understand what earth is. Now, this tells you he meant the ground that we're standing on, earth, because he says, and all the inhabitants therein. So the people on the earth is different than the earth that therein is. And let the Lord God be witness against you, the Lord from his holy temple. Okay, his holy temple is obviously not on earth. It's something other than earth and the inhabitants here. So it's in heaven. Let's find this Micah guy. He's not Micah, the Imla. Micah, what's the other one? Micaiah, the
son of Imla.
The son of Imla. There we go. Somebody's a Bible reader.
I just read it. That's how I read it today.
Yeah, that's a good one. Now he's another one, but this is a prophet that prophesies to both north and south, and you find him mentioned in Jeremiah 26, verse 18. Jeremiah 26, verse 18. I find it odd that he's preaching during Hezekiah's reign. Hezekiah was a good king. You remember, he's the one who found the scrolls, cleaned everything up, got things working right again. They had him a big Passover like they'd never had before. But once the high priest died off, he went downhill too. He says, Jeremiah 26, 18, Micah the Morshite prophesied in the days of Hezekiah, king of Judah, and spake to all the people of Judah, saying, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, Zion shall be plowed like a field, and Jerusalem shall become heaps, and the mountains of the house as the high places of the forest. He's preaching bad news during the time that we look at the Bible and we think, good, that's revival in Israel in the southern kingdom. And he's saying, no, I see some problems. That's the problem with man, is he likes to reform to a certain point. But the fact is this, we've never reformed enough. You've never repented of everything you can repent of. You do good for a little while, and then we just need to get in a habit of, okay, once a week we're going to, not confessional, but to the real thing, confessional to God, yeah. We need to have a regular time of reform of our own life. Look at it in Jeremiah chapter 1. Jeremiah 1, verse 14. Now, what he had told in the book of Micah is he said, yes, in verse 1 he said, which he saw concerning Samaria and Jerusalem. So he's starting in the north and then he moves to the south, which is exactly the way they're going to go into captivity. The north goes out first and then the south. Jeremiah 1, verse 14. The Lord said unto me, out of the north an evil shall break forth upon the inhabitants of the land. For lo, I will call all the families of the kingdoms of the north, saith the Lord. And they shall come, they shall set every one his throne at the entering of the gate of Jerusalem, and against all the walls thereof round about, and against all the cities of Judah. That's the way it happens. It starts in the north and they work their way south. They're not content with just the north. They've got to wipe it all out, and they do. But that is of God. Look at it in Psalm 24. Psalm 24, verse 1. Now, many times you'll find this reference to earth and mountains, and people try to turn that into people. Now, people is a creation of God, but so is earth and mountains. He can talk to them if he wants to. Jeremiah 24, verse 1. He says, the earth, that's the ground, is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, the world, and they that dwell therein. So both the dwellers and the thing they're dwelling on belongs to God. And he many times will speak to both. And you don't have to understand it or make sense out of it, but don't correct it. I hear so many people, and good people I think, that are trying to make that applicable to themselves when he's talking to the ground. Well, let him talk to the ground if he wants to. He made man out of it. I think he can do whatever he wants to with the ground. Psalm 50, verse 12. Psalm 50, verse 12. This is God speaking. People don't zone in on this like they should, but anytime you hear God speak in the Bible, where it's first person God speaking, zone in, listen to it, because this is how he talks. Psalm 50, verse 12. He says, if I were hungry, I would not tell thee, for the world is mine, and the fullness thereof. There he's saying everything that you've ever seen or that you live around belongs to me. Now, I know many people think that the world is run by the devil. The world is run by the devil because people allow him to run them. They give themselves over to him. You can be anybody's servant you want to be. You will be somebody's servant, but it's your choice who you serve. But it's a roundabout way of serving God. I know that sounds crazy, but if you serve the devil, you're eventually serving God. You know, the devil has to serve God too.
That's right.
And so at the end, everybody's going to be doing his bidding. He says in Revelation, he forces those wicked men to turn over their kingdoms to the Antichrist in order to fulfill God's will. What a wild thing. Micah 1, verse 3. Micah 1, verse 3. For behold, the Lord cometh forth out of his place, and will come down and tread upon the high places of the earth. Okay, he's already talked about the earth. We understand the earth. If you had made the earth in the previous verse people, then he's going to tread on people. Of course, he's going to do that too, but he'll identify who he treads on. He's coming forth out of his place. That is somewhere different than earth. So his temple is not on earth, it's in heaven. And he's going to come out of heaven one day, and he's going to do some damage when he does. Verse 4. The mountains shall be molten under him, and the valleys shall be cleft, as wax before the fire, and as the waters that be poured down a steep place. He says when he shows up, it just melts things. It's like a nuclear bomb going off and just melting everything in its path. And that's the way he's going to come back. It'll be a scary day. Good thing I'm going to be behind it, not in front of it. Isaiah 26, 21. Here's this almost identical reference. For behold, the Lord cometh out of his place. Why? To punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. The earth also shall disclose her blood, and shall no more cover her slain. That is, the earth itself is going to reveal to God all innocent blood. Just like it did in Cain and Abel's day. The earth cries out, says, innocent blood over here, and God's got to do something about it. One day, the earth is no longer going to cover innocent blood, and it's going to cry to God, come cleanse our spot over here too. And think of all the aborted babies and murders and wickedness that's gone on. We had somebody was shot in front of our shop at 4 o'clock in the morning last week. Just senseless stuff, you know. This world's full of it. One day, it's going to be rectified. If not now, if not sooner, one day for sure God will do it. Isaiah 64. Isaiah is a great book. Like I need to say that. But an interesting thing about Isaiah is it has 66 chapters. And each chapter correlates to that number of book in your Bible. So as we get down to the end of Isaiah, we're talking about events of the tribulation and millennium. Isaiah 64, verse 1. Oh, that thou wouldest rend the heavens, and that thou wouldest come down, that the mountains might flow down at thy presence. Exactly what he says in the other places we saw. As when the melting fire burneth, the fire causeth the waters to boil, to make thy name known to thine adversaries, that the nations may tremble at thy presence. That's what he's going to do when he comes back. He's coming back in vengeance, and he's going to punish all his adversaries, his enemies. Look at it in y'all's favorite book, Hosea 5. Hosea 5, verse 14. Our verse said that he's coming out of his place. It appears that this Babylon and Samaria, he may have physically come down and assisted in the battle. I know nobody's ever said that. I can't tell you a proof text for it, but this one's pretty close. Hosea 5, verse 14. For I will be unto Ephraim as a lion, as a young lion to the house of Judah. I, even I, will tear and go away. Okay, he did that. He took them, both the north and the south, captive. Assyria and Babylon. Now, God's taking credit for it. He says, I'm going to do this. The thing that's interesting to me is this. He says, I'll do this and then I'll go away. Where's he going? He's going to his temple. And that's where he comes from in the book of Micah. And go away. The last phrase of our verse. I will take away and none shall rescue him. Verse 15. I will go and return to my place till they acknowledge their offense and seek my face. In their affliction, they will seek me early. Tribulation. He's going to come back. When he comes back, it's destruction for everybody who opposes him. Psalm 115. Psalm 115, verse 3. This is a great verse if you don't try to make it make sense. He says, Psalm 115, verse 3. But our God is in the heavens. He hath done whatsoever whatsoever he hath pleased. That means God does whatever he wants to do.
Amen.
You look around to this world, you see the mess that people are getting away with, and you think, did it please him to let them get away with that? Obviously it did. He's got a bigger chessboard he's playing with than we'll ever understand. He gives a man so long to repent, and if he doesn't repent, he says, okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll build a storeroom for you to store up wrath against the day of wrath. Job chapter 40. Job 40, verse 12. I think we used this morning. This is what Jesus does when he comes back. Job 40, verse 12. Look on everyone that is proud and bring him low, and tread down, that's walk on top of, the wicked in their place. He's going to stomp them. Something that can set off a reaction like a nuclear weapon. I don't want stomping on me. And that's what he's going to do. Look at it in Isaiah 25. Isaiah 25, verse 10. I give y'all a lot of cross-references. Most people won't give you this many cross-references. I love cross-references. To me, when he says it more than once, I'm supposed to read it. If I just gave you the reference, you wouldn't read it. I wouldn't. But it helps to have it read to you, and then it cements it in your mind. Isaiah 25, 10. For in this mountain shall the hand of the Lord rest, and Moab shall be trodden down under him, even as straw is trodden down for the dunghill. He says, I'm going to stomp it. That straw they're trying to flatten out so they can use it to cover stuff with, the dunghill. Isaiah 63. Isaiah 63, verse 3. I don't have any problem with God saying he's going to use his feet to destroy somebody. If he says that's how he's going to do it, then go ahead. He says it over and over, so he's going to do it. Isaiah 63, verse 3. I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger. Now notice how he switches persons there. I will, I have. He says, I have trodden the winepress, I will tread them. Have and will. He's looking at it from his point of view as it's already happened. And then he comes back down so you understand what's going on and says, here's how you can look at it. I will tread them in mine anger and trample them in my fury. And their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments. And I will stain all my raiment. Verse 4. For the day of vengeance is in mine heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. Whew. You don't hear that one read too often with John 3:16. But if you want a heart verse, there's the heart verse. God so loved, he did. That's the heart picture. Love. Okay? There's something else in his heart. If you don't want his love, you get this one. Vengeance is in my heart too. Which one you choose? Look at Amos 4. Amos 4 verse 13. You know, the evolution, you know that's phony stuff anyway, but it's designed to steal praise from God and take credit for what God did. So they've got billions of years ago, some asteroid came too close to the earth and it yanked up the magnetic poles, yanked up the surfaces of the earth, and that created mountains and caverns and all this other garbage. But look what the Bible says here, Amos 4:13. For lo, he that formeth the mountains and createth the wind, and declareth unto man what is his thought, that maketh the morning darkness, and treadeth upon the high places of the earth. The Lord of hosts is his name. Host means he's leading an army. And he's leading that army. He says he's going to tread. That is, you put your feet down, and it's not just walk, you stomp. There's a saying, I don't know where we picked this saying up from, but it's a slang. Stomp the yard. That's exactly what he's going to do. He's coming back and he's going to stomp everything in the yard. Micah 1 verse 5. Micah 1 verse 5. For the transgression of Jacob is all this, for the sins of the house of Israel. What is the transgression of Jacob? Is it not Samaria? And what are the high places of Judah? Are they not Jerusalem? Therefore I will make Samaria as an heap of a field, and as plantings of a vineyard, and I will pour down the stones thereof into the valley, and I will discover the foundations thereof. Notice a phrase in there that I think is interesting. He says, what's he going to do with these stones? He didn't say pull them down, not kick them down. He's going to pour down the stones thereof in the valley. Now, the inference we've been given so far is that when he comes back, it melts things. I believe he's just going to melt the stones, and it's going to be like lava, and he's just going to pour it down. Whew. That would be a bad way to be in warfare and have somebody shooting lava at you. Could you imagine that? Now he said, for the transgression of Jacob is all this, and for the sins of the house of Israel. The sins are listed, and he gives a bunch of them in this book. In 1:7 and 5:13, it's idolatry. Idolatry is condemned not only in the Old Testament, but also in the New. In 2 verse 2, it's taking property that doesn't belong to them. That's every nation on the globe has always done that. What do they call it when the city decides they're going to take your property? They offer you a little bit of money for it, and then if you don't jump on it quick enough, they take it anyway. What is it? What?
Annex.
Well, yeah, some phrase. I don't remember. Yeah, they take your property if you don't sell it to them, like Ahab. I got to get off the politics thing. All right. The other thing he's saying is a sin to them is in 2:11, false prophecy. We're full of that in this world. I would say America, but it's not just America. It's all over the globe. False prophets, non-stop. In 3:1 To 3, he says this cruelty. Just being mean. You know, the love of many is going to wax cold, he says. And that's exactly what's going on. There's just no natural affection like there used to be. Injustice in 3, 9 to 11. Look at the judicial systems, probably every country, especially the more you study it in America, it's corrupt. It's corrupt. The only thing that can protect you is not judicial system, but the judge of all the earth. In 7:6, he says, dishonoring their parents. That's one of those things you're supposed to do. You're supposed to honor your parents. The Bible preaches about it too often for a man to ignore it. And God takes it serious. In 6:10 to 13, the sin is loving money. He could have just wrote America.
Amen.
Now that doesn't mean you have any, it just means you love it. A lot of poor people have this problem. They love money. They lust after it even though they don't have any. No, there's better things than money. I don't know what they are, but they're better. No. He said in our text, is it not Samaria? And what are the high places of Judah? Are they not Jerusalem? You could think that'd be a good place. That was the place he chose to place his name, Jerusalem. But yet they've corrupted it. Look at it in Ezekiel 16, verse 2. Ezekiel 16 is a tough passage. When you get home, you can read that, or anytime. Ezekiel 16 is God giving the history of Israel from his point of view. Ezekiel 16, verse 2. This is kind of a lengthy passage. I'm just going to jump through the chapter. Verse 2. Son of man, cause Jerusalem, that's what we're talking about, to know her abominations. Verse 6. And when I passed by thee, I saw thee polluted in thine own blood. I said unto thee, when thou wast in thy blood, live. Yea, I said unto thee, when thou wast in thy blood, live. Now that's how you become a new creature, is Christ gives you life. Until he gives you life, you don't have any, you're polluted. You're no good. Now he said, I did that with the whole nation. I came by and I said, I'm going to create a nation out of nothing that's worth nothing right now, and I'm going to turn it into something. Verse 13. Thus was thou decked with gold and silver, and thy raiment was fine linen, and silk embroidered work. Thou didst eat fine flour and honey and oil. Thou wast exceedingly beautiful, and thou didst prosper into a kingdom. God says, I did this for you. This is the history of how you came into fruition. Verse 14. And thy renown went forth among the heathen for thy beauty. For it was perfect through my comeliness, which I had put upon thee, saith the Lord God. God says, don't get the big head. You didn't do nothing for this. I did that for you. Yeah, I gave it to you, but it wasn't because of you. It's because I chose to. Verse 15. But thou didst trust in thine own beauty. But it wasn't really theirs to begin with. God gave it to them. And playedest the harlot because of thine renown, and pouredest out thy fornication on every one that passed by. His it was. Now he's speaking to a nation, not individuals. So he's saying the picture is this. The nation as a whole has corrupted themselves just like a harlot would. And that's exactly the picture. He uses this same picture all through the minor prophets. Look at it in verse 16. And of thy garments thou didst take and deckest thy high places with divers colors, and played the harlot thereupon. And the like things shall not come, neither shall it be so. Now the reason I'm bringing all this up is because the time Micah is prophesying is right on the cusp of a new king that's going to take the throne. Manasseh. When Manasseh comes in, he amalgamates all religions. They become polytheist, or no longer serving God, but all gods. And these high places are what he institutes. That was the problem with his father, Hezekiah. Hezekiah did not destroy all of the high places. He got a lot of them, but he didn't go far enough. When you start cleaning up, you clean up vigorously. Or you should. Look at verse 20. Moreover, thou hast taken thy sons and thy daughters. Whose are they? They're theirs. Whom thou hast borne unto me. God says they ain't yours. That's what a baby dedication is. A baby dedication is not anything special to the baby. It's something special to the parents. It says, we recognize this is not our son, but you lend him to us for a certain amount of time. And we're going to make a public covenant to you that will raise them the way you tell us to. And that's all that's about. He says, this was the nation. When you had a child, it was because I allowed you to have a child. That should have been raised to me according to the law. And these hast thou sacrificed unto them that be devoured. Is this of thy whoredoms a small matter? He says you're sacrificing your children. You're giving them away. Now, we look at that and we think, man, who in their right mind? Well, America is getting that way. When it's wholesale abortions, and you can abort them even after they're born, then we're on the cusp of that too. Now, we look at things and we look around, and I understand it because I say the same thing. It's never been this bad, and it's getting worse every day. However, I'm not there yet. We're not in a place where they're publicly sacrificing their children and it's common knowledge. Now, it goes on. I'm not saying it didn't go on. But I'm saying it's not public in the streets as a national pastime. Verse 16. That thou hast slain thy children and delivered them to cause them to pass through the fire for them. They're offering their... verse 21. They're offering their children to the heathens for the heathens to do sacrifice. It's like a payoff. Ooh. Verse 24. That thou hast also built unto thee an intimate place, and hast made thee an high place in every street. That is, just like goes on in India. They built them little shrines on every street to the multitude of gods they were serving. No wonder God got mad. That was what was going on. Verse 25. Thou hast built thy high places at every head of the way, and hast made thy beauty to be abhorred, and hast opened thy feet to every one that passed by, and the multitude of thy whoredoms. He's saying there you've said, okay, we're open to any religion. Do you have a new God? Bring it to me. You know exactly what Paul found when he came into Mars Hill. A shrine to every god, and in case they had missed one, to the unknown God. That's what was going on in Israel. Verse 27. Behold, therefore, I have stretched out my hand over thee, and have diminished thine ordinary food. You notice how merciful God is. He didn't just smash them, even though he could have and had good justification for it. He said, let's just start out small. I'm going to diminish your ordinary food. And that's going on now. The food doesn't have the nutrients it used to have. Bread used to be a good thing for you. In the Bible, it talks about eating bread. Bread's good. Don't try it in America. Our bread doesn't have any nutrients in it. There's nothing there. It's just plastic. And delivered thee unto the will of them that hate thee, the daughters of the Philistines, which are ashamed of thy lewd way. Could you imagine that? The heathen are ashamed of how debased Israel has become. Verse 28. Thou hast played the whore also with the Assyrians. Yeah, they're going to play it, but then it's going to bite them. Because thou wast unstable. Unstable. Now, that's every man is unstable. It's the Word of God that gives us stability. Because we have a foundation. We have something, an anchor. He says, yea, thou hast played the harlot with them, and yet couldst not be satisfied. That's man. Man looks for satisfaction. I remember asking somebody about what their goal in life was. What do they want to do? You know, what's their motivation? And this person's response was they just wanted to be happy. So we don't know what that is. That changes every day. You can't be satisfied. If you're just looking for satisfaction, that's the devil's calling card. He says, well, try this one, and if that doesn't work, I got something else for you. It never ends. Look at verse 35. Therefore, O harlot, hear the word of the Lord. Wow, what a way to talk to people. Now, you would be kicked off of the air if any preacher tried that one. I just did. Verse 38. And I will judge thee as a woman that breaketh wedlock. That's the book of Hosea. And shed blood are judged. That is, a murderer would be judged, called before the judge. And I will give thee blood in fury and jealousy. That is, God says, you've made me jealous and very furious. And I'm the judge, and I'm going to haul you in before myself. And I'm going to judge you. Verse 39. And I will also give thee into their hand, and they shall trod down thine intimate places. Now there's that trodding down. I think what we've got here is we've got a picture of what's going to happen. Assyria and Babylon come in and destroy, and that's a type. They're types of the Antichrist, types of the tribulation, and it's bad news. I'm not saying there's anything good about it or nice. It was not nice. It was very harsh. But it's not as bad as it's going to get. This is them trotting down, but one day God himself is going to be doing the trotting with his feet. He says, they shall strip thee also of thy clothes, and shall take thy fair jewels, and leave thee naked and bare. Verse 45. Thou art thy mother's daughter. Well, who else would she be? That saying that you're like your mother. That loatheth her husband and her children. That's happening. The TV shows are all designed to make you discontent with your family situation. Everybody has a messed up family. It's just that now they're proud of it. And what I saw this go on, I don't know when I first saw it, but a while ago, that it was starting to become popular to make phony families. So you call somebody who is not your relative as though they're your relative. And you create a bond with that person as though they're family, but there's something missing. Because when time comes, push comes to shove, they're going to cut your throat just like the rest of them would. Mm-hmm. You've only got one family. If you don't have one, take God. He said, if my mother and father forsake me, then God will take me up. Take that one. That's all you can get. He says, and her children, and thou art the sister of thy sister, which loatheth her husband, and their children. Your mother was an Hittite, and your father an Amorite. Okay, we're talking now about Abraham. Verse 46. And thine elder sister is Samaria, she and her daughters that dwell at thy left hand. And thy younger sister that dwelleth at thy right hand is Sodom, and her daughters. A great neighborhood, isn't it? 47. Yet hast thou not walked after their ways, nor done after their abominations. Well, that sounds encouraging. Wish the verse ended there. But as if that were a very little thing, thou hast corrupted more than they in all thy ways. He says, you've become more wicked than the wicked heathen around you that I destroyed. So this is justification. God's giving justification for the second advent. He said in our text there about the calves at Beth Haven, or the golden calf that was set up. That's all designed to corrupt Israel, to make them seek something that's going to make God destroy them. That's what the devil does. If the devil can't get you to destroy yourself, he'll get you in a position where God has no choice. Look at 1 Kings 12. 1 Kings 12. I'm trying to finish this. We're almost done. Say that 5 more times. 1 Kings 12:28. Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold. Okay, that's got to be a pretty thing. I mean, anything in gold is pretty, says Trump. He's made these golden calves and said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. You deserve to take it easy. Behold thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. How come he's the one who just made them? And he set the one in Bethel and put the other in Dan. He said, just to make it convenient, we'll create a satellite megachurch for you up here and for you down here. And that's what he did. 2 identical calves in 2 spots that would be convenient for the people. Hosea 8, look at Hosea 8 verse 5. The devil's not nice to anybody. Even the people he's kind, he's not nice to them either. Hosea 8, 5. Thy calf, that's that golden calf, O Samaria, has cast thee off. Mine anger is kindled against thee. How long will it be ere they attain to innocency? Never. There's some lines that can't be crossed, and once they're crossed, it's a miracle of God before you ever get, if you're going to get back on the other side, saved or lost. 1 Chronicles 13. Second Chronicles 13, verse 8. Here a prophet comes to town and has happy good news. And now you think to withstand the kingdom of the Lord in the hand of the sons of David. And ye be a great multitude. And there are with you golden calves, which Jeroboam made you for gods. Golden calf. He made them to be gods. They weren't gods. He declared them to be gods. So who's the real God? Jeroboam. If he can decide what's a god and what's not, that makes him more powerful than the God. No wonder God hates him. Now he talked about high places. These high places are a bad news. Before God chose to set his name in Jerusalem, they used high places to serve God. However, once God established his spot to be worshipped, there was to be no other place. And everybody was to come to that one spot. And it didn't happen. The heathen were doing high place worship too. And they had newfangled strobe lights. And so everybody wanted to get them a set. 1 Kings 11. 1 Kings 11, verse 7. Solomon, of all the people, Solomon builds these high places up. And they never totally get extinguished. 1 Kings 11, verse 7. Then did Solomon build an high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, in the hill that is before Jerusalem, real close to the right spot, but not quite. And for Moloch, the abomination of the children of Ammon. I mean, those are bad news right there. And this is Solomon doing it. Ugh. That causes God's fury to burn. In 2 Kings 18. Second Kings 18:4. Second Kings 18:4. This is Hezekiah. This is the time period when the book is being played out. He removed the high places and brake the images and cut down the groves and brake in pieces the brazen serpent that Moses had made. For unto those days the children of Israel did burn incense to it, and he called it that name right there. That's 2 Kings 18:4. Now 2 Kings 23.
What did you say?
2 Kings 23. 2 Kings 23:13. And the high places that were before Jerusalem, we saw those earlier, that was the ones that Solomon had, which were on the right hand of the mount of corruption. He corrupted the whole mountain. That was God's seat. His position was supposed to be right there on Mount Zion. Yet he says here, Solomon's corrupted it. Which Solomon the king of Israel had built for Ashtaroth, the abomination of the Zidonians, and for Chemosh, the abomination of the Moabites, and for Malcolm, the abomination of the children of Ammon, did the king defile. We've got all these high places setting up everywhere, and not everybody is corrupt yet, but this is what corruption does. It doesn't stop. It doesn't draw a line. And the northern tribes, we know they're horrible. We don't expect this kind of corruption to creep into the south, where it's truly the line of David, but it's going to. And that's what this book, one of the focuses of this book is going to be, judgment against the south. Now, he's also going to tell about the north because they correlate. The north went into apostasy, and he's saying, you've watched it happen, and now you're guilty for following suit knowingly. They watched it happen. They knew what was going to happen. They saw the judgment of God. They feignedly turned to God at times, when it got real bad, and they never gave him their whole heart. And eventually they're going to wind up as bad or worse than the north. Okay, we'll stop there. We'll pick up next week at Micah 1 verse 7.